right, hi folks. So hopefully you guys have this egg form. So Mr. Olson made this one, which I believe is supposed to be a dragon egg. And for whatever reason, he didn't paint the top part, but this part is all nicely painted. And this is a lidded form, and it seems to come apart and go together. Does ours need to be a lidded form that comes apart and goes together?
Does not have to be.
Okay, so I have decided, you know, when I see an egg, I think hedgehog. So I thought today we're going to make this one into a hedgehog. But my understanding is that you should be making something of your own that's very exciting. So he has his egg sitting on, you know, its base like this, and that's great if you're gonna make like a potato or a penguin or something else that might be egg shaped. I was thinking about the little dragon thingies that go around like that in Fantastic Creatures and Where to Find Them. But then I didn't watch the video again, so I'm not going to do that. But then I thought hedgehog. So my hedgehog is going to be sitting this way instead of this way. So remember, your egg shape can be wherever you want it to be and whatever size. So it could sit this way, it could sit that way, it could sit whatever way makes you happy. Fancy tools. This is ceramics, so everything works. Hold on. Yes, please, and olives. Sorry, super high class. Super high class crew over here. So I'm using a butter knife today because I didn't have the forethought to get a fork, but you could probably use both of those things.
I'll get you one.
Fork would be great because I'm also using a reference photo. So here's my fancy setup here. So I want to keep my laptop pretty far away from my good friend the clay, but it's nice to have some photos here to work from and kind of look at as you work. I've also got a cup with a little bit of water here for scoring and slipping. And then I have a little bit of extra clay if I want to add things on to our little hedgehog friend. I think his name is Henry. Okay, thank you. All right, so I'm gonna start off actually, how thick is this?
It's about 3/8 of an inch thick.
I'm gonna start off very carefully subtracting a little bit. So I'm just gonna kind of, I like to draw things out, but this is a sculpture, so I'm just gonna draw things out the best I can here. So I'm kind of drawing out with my butter knife. Feel free to use a sharper knife if you think you are ready for that. But I'm just gonna kind of delineate where his little quills are and where his little face is gonna be. So face down here, quills up here is kind of how we're going here. And then I wanna just kind of have that go all the way around. So big difference between sculpture and drawing and painting is, that didn't work, is 2D and 3D. So it is not my natural instinct to, you know, pick it up and turn it around and stuff, but you know, we are going to be flexible here. All right, so if you like your line, you're good to go. If you don't like your line, one of the great things about clay is it's very forgiving. So I just scooch that in, and we never made that mistake before in our lives. All right, so he's got some adorable little ears and a little pointy nose and everything, so I'm gonna add those on. But like at this point, like it could be a ladybug, it could be a beetle, it could be whatever it wants to be when it grows up. I might actually just pick it up and bop it down on the table a little bit so that it will sit for me instead of trying to roll away. Now we're good. You want to be careful when you bop it because you don't want to bop it too much. Oh, my picture keeps going away. All right, so now I'm just going to go ahead and carve down a smidgen, just a little bit, just again to sort of delineate the face from the quill section of our good friend here. And his nose goes, what's up, honey? His nose goes out to almost a point, but before it does that, his face is sort of set in a little bit. So I'm just gonna kind of rough out sort of different sections here. I don't know what you guys prefer. Like, you could definitely work additively first, but I like to work subtractively. So carving away is working subtractively. I'm being very dangerous here with my butter knife. This is why I'm only to butter knife level. If you notice, I'm sort of carving right at my thumb. That's not the way. So you probably, watch me model like a good adult, you probably want to carve away from yourself if you are using a sharper tool, but butter knives are actually super useful. So I'm going to be cool and continue to use this. Besides, I don't want to go find another tool. So it's possible that you have to keep moving your little sculpture around, but it's also possible that you can keep it in one place. I guess it's a personal choice. All right, it's looking more and more like a hedgehog every second. So I'm very nervous because I don't know how thick it is, and I'm just gonna kind of, you know, slightly test it, and it's okay so far, but I wanna be real careful before I go in too far. And then what I'm gonna do now, so now I've got like just a little bit of difference here between my little face and my outer hedgehogginess. And I'm just gonna go ahead and add a little bit of a little nose coming out here. When you're adding anything, you wanna remember to score and slip. So I've got my good friend, the fork here. I have a lot of friends, very popular. So scratching up the surface. That's the scoring part. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and slip it with some water here. And then I'll make sure that I also score and slip the other side. Huh?
Get a little more water on that.
I didn't put any on it yet.
Oh, okay. I saw you rubbed your finger. I thought you were wetting it.
Make a video, he says. I trust you, he says. So I'm just gonna kind of roughly sculpt in the little nosy situation. So this is a sculpture, so while I am referring back to my reference photo time and time again, in the end, no one is going to see the reference photo except for me, so I do want to make sure that it is what I want it to be. So that means that if you want to make it a little bit more simplified or stylized, that's okay. So, you know, he's gonna be recognizable as a hedgehog, but he's probably not gonna be photorealistic. So as you can see, I have scored both sides. So now I need to do the slip. So I'm just gonna get a little bit of water on my finger, tap it around. Same thing on the other side. And then smush them together. And you really don't want to be delicate. Clay is not really a delicate medium. So you can really just sort of get in there, smush it together. See how it's kind of oozing out? That means it's stuck. And that's what we want. You don't want this to be just sort of gently put on there. You really want to push it in because you don't want it to pop off in the kiln. Nobody wants that. Where did it? Yeah, I might need to pop it down a little bit more to make it nice and flat on the bottom for me. All right, so now I've lost pretty much everything I did, but that's okay. So I'm just gonna go ahead and smoosh it. technical term for the smooshing. And then as I'm working, I'm sort of being mindful of like I want to say brush strokes because I'm usually a painter. But the way that my fingers are moving over the clay, I like this sort of texture stroke, but I also kind of liked the texture of the butter knife. I like that sort of rough texture because it kind of mimics the sort of under fur of the little hedgehog here. And again, while I don't need it to be photorealistic in any way, I do want to sort of delineate different textures as I'm working here. And so now I'm just kind of think about how I want the finish to be. So I might just go ahead and experiment with some things. Maybe I'll use the butter knife here as a little comb. And I also want to think about the edge. How am I going to have this piece of clay meeting that piece of clay? And I think I will actually use a little slip over here, but I really want to keep them kind of separate just to further let people know that that's where the face kind of ends and the quills begin. I know what you're thinking. He doesn't have any eyes yet. So maybe I give him some eyes. The problem with that, of course, is that the rest of the time he's just going to be looking at me. But that's okay. You want to kind of think about where you're working and your workspace. Make sure that it's not an area that you haven't prepared for mess. Okay. So now I'm looking at this again, and it sort of looks more like quills perhaps, but I don't know if I like that better or not. Anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and add some slip to the outside edge here where it's finishing up the face area. And again, I can really dig in with my fingernails. You don't need to be very precious when it comes to clay. And if something doesn't work, just take it off and start again. It's fine. Clay is, ugh, my computer keeps going to sleep on me. Clay is very forgiving, and it's fine. So he's got some little tiny ears and some little beady eyes. So I'm gonna go ahead and start by deciding where his eyes are gonna be, and I'm just gonna notch out the little eye sockets. So there's a little eye socket. There's a little eye socket. And I was entirely planning on putting little beady eyes in there, but I might not do that. The problem with things like little beady eyes is that they're teeny tiny things, and if they're not super well attached, they again will just pop right off in the kiln. And I do want to avoid having things popping off in the kiln if I possibly can. So now I'm kind of thinking about ear size and shape. So I like to sort of place things up there and see if I like it or not. This is too big. This says mouse, and I don't like mouse. I want it to say hedgehog. So his little ears here are actually pretty triangular. So I'm just gonna kind of do this, fold it all together a little bit. So it's like a little miniature cat ear, as it were. So I've got one, and again, I don't want to leave it like that. I want to make sure I'm scoring and slipping everything.
This is where I want to talk about having things not get knocked off. I mean, they're tiny little ears. I think they're great, but this would be the moment to talk about that as a conversation.
So they're semi-similar size. So now what I'm going to do is first I'm going to score and slip, and then I want to see if they stick out too much. So if you look at this one that Mr. Olson made, see how the stem really sticks out a lot? But then because of that, he didn't want it to get knocked off, he attached it here and here to the pumpkin. So I'm either going to attach my ears to this whole area, or I'm just going to make sure that they don't pop up too much. Because also hedgehog ears are fairly small. They really don't do a lot of hopping out. Okay, I lost which side is the top and which side is the bottom here. So scoring, slipping, smushing, and then really connecting it super well. And then I'm just going to make it even a little bit smaller because A, they don't stick out that much, and B, I really don't want anything to kind of knock off. So if you think of your animal or whatever you're creating, think of it as doing like a closed form. So closed form means that you don't have like lots of things flying off of it, and you don't have lots of like cutouts and things that are cut away. So clay kind of works best as closed form. There we go. Take a little off the top. And again, trying to get it connected nicely. Sometimes it feels like it's two steps forward and one step back, and sometimes it feels like it's one step forward and two steps back, because I swear now I have to kind of redo the texture for his little face again. And oops. And then I think I will have to do little tiny eyes for him. So tiny. But they're entirely just going to pop right off if I don't score and slip them. All right, I don't know if I love that. I don't know. I'll come back to the face and look at that again. Like it looks a little beady, but you know, I don't know. Their eyes are beady, so only so much I can do about that. But again, I keep losing that texture that I liked in the beginning, so adding it back, sort of trying to fold those ears. It's a little wet actually, so I might let this dry out a little bit and then kind of go back in there and fold. Now I'm going to focus on like the main part of our little hedgehog friend, which is the quills. So how are we going to show them? That's an excellent question. I don't know. But I'm going to start off, ooh, that's making me happy. I'm going to start off by using the fork and kind of just starting to rough up the entire edge. And that's actually being fairly successful for me. So it's getting all these little crumbly bits up, and how to deal with that is something that I shall figure out in a moment, but currently I'm just kind of combing it. Comb the little hedgehog friend. Look at that. So it's all about texture with hedgehogs. And I don't want it to look like the little quills are super long. I'm just going to do like sort of short ones. I'm sorry I'm not saying exciting things. I am just brushing my little hedgehog's quills.
Pet.
I know, it's just, it very much says Chia Pet.
Make sure you knock off
The little bits, the little burrs. Do we really want to?
I just want to make sure it looks finished. And not, I don't want to encourage sensitive. I'll get you something, but I don't know. I'll take it.
All right, so now it's kind of, oh, this works. Just kind of brushing him off a little bit. Just a little. I like the texture, but all these little burrs, not as much. That did nothing. So if you try to blow off your clay, nothing will happen. Now you know. All right, and clearing off my little hedgehog space. Okay, so we're back at the face again, and that was actually quite quick and easy. I'm just kind of gonna do maybe another little layer towards the front here, just because maybe he didn't comb his quills that well. We want to rough it up a little bit more, but by and large, that's fine. I don't know. He looks a little bit like a coconut, a little bit like a hedgehog, and a little bit like a walnut. Okay, so now I want to focus a little bit more on the face again, and the texture here. So he's not smooth anywhere really. He's kind of got quills all over, but it's different texture. So the fork texture was extra rough. This texture is gonna be just a little bit rough, and I like that. I want to have the contrast. Ah, squashed his ear. So now I want to be very careful. I'm sorry, I've got you on your back and your tummy's up and it's exposed. He's okay with it. So this little chest hair area is going to have a little bit more texture. And then, ooh, look at those little guys. It's a little bit Totoro there. Ooh, you could make Totoro. That's egg-shaped. Okay. Now his little face might need just a little fine-tuning now. So I'm just going to kind of, again, pull out a little bit of texture here and there. And I might just pull it out a little bit, blend it in a little bit. So this is the part where you're kind of coming in and you're thinking, well, I've got kind of everything sort of where I want it and semi the right shape and size. Let me just fiddle around with it and try to make it really say hedgehog or cat or I don't know what yours is going to say. Folded up swan or other things. God, his eyes are extra special though for some reason. So let's get them less obnoxious. I'm actually going to take them off. We don't love that. So they're kind of hard to remove because I really did score and slip those little suckers. But I didn't love them, so I think instead I'm just going to make them little insets instead. So the kind of interesting thing, and you can kind of see the difference here, this one's kind of staring out into the left here. This one isn't there, but because of the way the light is shining on it, the shadows actually add to it and kind of create an eye where there isn't one. So you can kind of think about lights and shadows and have the light sort of playing over your piece and playing with your piece and becoming part of it. You can kind of see the shadow in this ear too because I folded it again so that it's looking more three-dimensional. I know it is three-dimensional, but it's looking even more so because of the shadow. Just scoop out that eye. I'm sorry, Henry. His name is Henry, by the way. He's okay now. He's okay now. He's gonna be okay. I'm starting to see cat in his face, and I definitely don't want it to be a cat because he's a hedgehog. So I want to watch that. So as you work, you want to try to be thinking the whole time. I mean, people talk about artists as having like skilled hands, but really art is all about decision making, constant thinking, constant. Is this working? Is that not working? How can I make this work better? What can I do? How is this different than what I've done before? What can I do to make this better, rounder, all these things? And you have to continue to ask yourself, is it done? Is it almost done? Could it be better? Is there something I could have done differently? Am I pushing the envelope enough? Oh, there we go. From the profile, it looks more like a hedgehog, but I was afraid that the face on here was looking a little bit too cat. But I see more hedgehog now, less cat. He doesn't have a mouth, but that's okay. He's expressive in his own way. All right, there we go. So now the final thing, I like that he rocks. The final thing, if I had a needle tool or a sharp knife, because, you know, maybe I was ready for a sharp knife, I think I'm actually going to cut along this edge between my smoother and my rougher, and then I'll have a lidded form. That's not a sharp knife at all.
Oh, you're making a lidded form?
I was going to just cut along this edge, and then he could open and close.
I'll get you one.
Mr. Olson is going to very slowly go get us a sharper knife now. While he's doing that, I'll just tidy up my area.
Hey, son. Steak knife.
He thinks we have any steak knives clean. It's probably not true. Gonna just bend these ears a little bit more. Oh, it's a little tiny bear now. So, there he is. He's got his little face there. He's got his little ears there. There he is in profile. So super simplified. But, you know, he says hedgehog. Grazie. Okay, hold still, Henry. It's gonna be fine. I'm a professional. Feel very much like I'm just stabbing him now, so maybe I should have. Ooh, did you hear the air come out?
I would score a little bit.
You would score before?
Score it, yeah, cut down a few steps at a time. There was an air release, huh?
Yeah.
You can explain to them why that is.
The air came out.
Because it was a sealed.
Because it was a sealed form. So if you want to keep it sealed, you should probably have poke a little hole there. Right?
I'm not sure it's necessary, but it certainly doesn't hurt to avoid potential. It's actually less likely to crack if they do, yeah. Yeah, I like them better as a little closed object because you can like have little candies or something inside that.
I feel like it should have nuts inside. I know he's not a squirrel, but I feel this way. I do not know what hedgehogs eat.
I don't know.
But
I know I saw one in the wild once.
Did you? Where?
Yes.
England? Oh, Interlaken. In the wild? Was he like hanging out in the grass?
No, he rolls up. They roll up in little balls like the protectors. They roll into a ball and hope that you don't kill them.
Oh.
This little furry thing on the ground. We saw it moving, and then it saw us, and it just popped into a little ball and sat there.
Oh. And you didn't kill him, right?
No.
So, success. Successful defense. Okay, so I'm trying to be fairly delicate, but do feel free to fast forward me. And I can feel it wanting to give at this point, but I haven't cut the whole line, so I don't want to let it go into until I have my whole line decided. See, it wants to. Hold on there, Henry. Oh, we got an ear. I want to be careful. Careful of the ear, Henry. I think not, but he's cute.
No, it's nice. It's a little bit informed. It's not what I would have thought of.
Well, that's why you asked someone else to do it, so that you could have something different. There we go. All right. Boop. So there's Henry. And remember, we've got texture down there, and then these little fun Totoro textures. And then a different texture out here on his quills. And then he can sit together, and then he can hide things for you when you want him to. All right, have fun,
I'm
guys.
gonna take it from here. Guys, I hope you appreciate my wife doing that for me. I'm not feeling 100% today, so I asked her to do that, and I think she did a fantastic job. The one thing I would have you guys do at this point is I want to make sure you create a finished final work. So I would go in fact, tomorrow I'm going to clean up the inside as well. I'm going to take a moment to make sure this looks good. I want to make sure that each piece looks good in the 360. I want you to be able to go all the way around it and make sure the whole thing looks finished. Nothing should look rough in the end. So I'm going to actually let this dry a little bit, and then I'm going to take like a scrub pad like from my sink, and I'm going to soften the edges a little bit. See here where I've got the place where it came together when I originally put it together. I'm going to take some time to clean that up. Okay, you guys are going to be graded on 3 things. One is whether or not you have done the project correctly. This is a pinch pot. These are 2 pinch pots combined together well, without, it's not going to crack. And by the way, you're not getting your grade until after. You're not going to get your grade until after this has come out of the kiln, because you're going to be graded if it cracks in the process of coming out while it's being fired. That's going to cost you part of your grade. So you might want to make sure. So you need to make sure that you're doing a good job, good enough job that when it comes out of the kiln, it's still going to stay together. But I want to make sure that everything is well finished all the way around. Now, if you didn't cut it open because you're not required to cut it open, then you obviously are not going to be able to deal with the inside. But if you do cut it open, I'm going to want you to deal with the inside as well and all your edges. And in the end, I want a finished, well thought out looking object. So 3 things you're going to be graded on. 1, did you follow the assignment and create and do everything that you're supposed to be doing? Okay, this thing is worth 60 points, so that's going to be worth 30 points. For 20 points, I'm going to be looking for creativity. Have you been creative, and have you done something interesting and creative and had fun with it, and done something that is interesting, something that nobody else did? Because it was your own idea and you were creative about it and you had fun. Up to 20 points for creativity. And the last thing is effort. I'm going to want to see that there was a lot of time and effort spent in finishing the object. So that's where this last thing I was talking about is going to come into play. If I see that things are really kind of rough and unfinished, then I'm going to mark you down on your effort grade, because I really want a finished looking object. This is a nicely finished, everything is very thought out and considered object. Okay, so that's where I'm going to be putting some time into this tomorrow to really kind of make sure that it's completely done and finished and looking just perfect. Sometimes you want to let it dry out a little bit before you do that. Okay, so once again, 3 things. Did you do the assignment correctly? Did you make the 2 pinch pots, put them together? Is it an egg form? Are they well combined? And then did you turn that into something interesting? Second thing, second thing is creativity, up to 20 points for have you been expressive and creative and interesting with your object. And the last thing is 10 points for whether or not you have put the finishing touches and put in the effort to really make sure that everything looks really good and it's done. I want to see the time and effort in the whole thing. All right, there's your assignment.